Hi, welcome back. I'm Donna with ABC Cake Decorating Supplies. Our next stop through our journey, our destination stop, is going to be roses. Roses are one of those flowers. You can ruffle them, you can make them big, you can make them small. You don't have to have a lot of ruffle on them. You can color them in so many beautiful colors. I'm really excited about this one. I think you're gonna like this. Also, if you are into oils and flavors, you can actually go in and you can scent these with the food grade rose oil. So now they're not only gonna look like roses, they're gonna smell like roses too. I hope you really like this segment. It's just fascinating to me what you can do. You can take something like this and you can make those. So if you were following from the other stops, we did our calla lily and we did our Gerber daisy. Now let's do our roses. What I've done already is I went ahead and rolled it out. Remember, roll it out thinner than a 16th. Should be almost thin enough that if you have reading underneath here, you should be able to read it. I'm going to do 3 flowers. This is actually called a quick flower. A lot of times you can buy these and it just is a petal. What these do is they cut out 5 petals at one time. Some of them are individual petals where they cut like a teardrop, and then you cut out 5, 15, however many petals or how large you want your flower to be. So that's kind of an important thing here. These are all going to be together, but yet we're going to fold them to where they look all independent. First though, what I need to do is prepare my rose base. My rose base is basically, it's just a little cone that's on top of a toothpick, because this way here you can stick them into your cake. And again, if you want to use any type of spaghetti, you can. Just keep in mind, spaghetti is very fragile and it could break. One of the things I like to do, and this is going to determine the size of this, is you're going to take the wide part of the petal and you want it to be almost as tall as the wide part of your petal. The reason is when we start to cover the base of our rose, we want to make sure that our petal is going to wrap all the way around it, because we don't want to see this. These need to be made in advance, and you do want them to harden, only because when you start to wrap your petals around here, if it's soft, it may fall off, and then it's going to fall in your hands, and then it's just not going to be pretty. Your rose is going to be dead before you ever even get to make it beautiful. So now let's get started with our rose base. What we need to do is go ahead and get out our gum paste. Now, if your gum paste has been in the package for a while, it may be a little stiff. It might need to be worked a little bit. So you can go ahead and just kind of squish it around. If it feels a little too dry, add a little bit of shortening. If it feels really kind of sticky, then I would go ahead and just add a little bit of your powder to it. You're going to take a little bit, and after a while, depending upon how large your roses are, you're going to kind of know how much gum paste to take out. But when in doubt, just take out a little extra, and then you can always put some back in. To make our cone, we're going to roll, just rolling it out. We want to make our cone. So we're just going to roll this out. And already I have too much, so I'm just going to take and cut some off. And just put that guy back in here. So these little baggies are so nice for little things like that. Then we just want to get a nice point. You want a nice point because you're going to have your petals start to wrap around that. So you want a nice point. Okay, then we're going to take this, and you can see that it's too long. So then we're just going to take and cut him. Just kind of shape him up a little bit. And now he's just about right. Let me put him on a stick for you, and then you'll see how that goes. Again, you can use spaghetti. You can use toothpicks, wire. But you want to make sure you dip it in your gum glue, because you don't want it to fall off. And just like when we made the calla lily center, you don't want to go up too high. Now you'll be able to see, it's a little bit long, but that's okay. It's one of those, you just don't want to get it too short and you don't want to get it too long. So just somewhere right in between there is going to be fine. And then we put them in our little foam. And if you're going to make 50 of them or 100 of them, this is when I say get a nice piece of foam and just roll them all up and just let them dry. So then when you start making your flowers, you can assemble. If you're going to be making small roses, and that's going to be the first layer of petals, and medium roses and large roses, I would say go through, make them all smalls, and then take out the smalls you want, and then you're already halfway there to the medium ones, make all the rest medium ones, take out the medium ones you want, and then make the rest of them your largest. That way there, as you progress, so are your flowers, and you don't have to stop and make one flower and then stop, make a flower, make a flower. You can just continually to make them all together. Now, this is all nice and dry, and he's not coming off. You do want to make sure that they're really dry. So if you live in a humid area or an area that may take a little bit, these could take a couple days to dry because they are kind of thick. I went in, cut out my roses. And we're going to go ahead and grab one of these. And this is going to be the start of our small rose. I'm going to take, and anything that's round, you can use a wooden dowel, you can use anything that's kind of rigid. And we're going to take here and we're going to elongate our flowers. We're just going to roll out each individual petal. If you need to, make sure you have shortening on your board so that your petals don't stick. Nothing worse than having sticky petals because they don't want to come up, and then you'll get to do it all over again. So here, I'm rolling this out. Now we have our petal. Now what I'm going to do is take it and move it over to my stiff foam. Now this is where, just like when we did the calla lily, how we ruffled the edges, we're going to do the exact same thing here. And this is where you can decide, do you want a real ruffly rose or do you want one that's not quite so ruffly? And that's just going to depend upon how much pressure you put on this. I'm going to go right into our shortening. I'm right into our cornstarch. We're just going to outline or rough up just the outside of these petals. This straight part is going to wrap around the base, so you don't need to ruffle that part. Remember, we're mostly on the foam, not on our petal. We're going to come around. And if you want it more ruffly, you just come back and just do it a little bit harder. I'm going to come, and you can see how my petals are lifting. Because all we're doing is we're just working the very end of our flower. And this is where sometimes practice comes in. You just might have to just sit and practice the smoothing part out. And there we are. That's our first base of our petal. Now what we want to do is take our gum glue and just go over the whole cone. You don't need a lot of it, but you want to make sure that you do cover the whole cone with your gum glue. Then we're going to take our first petal. If you look at this, we're going to kind of picture him as a little man. He's got a head, 2 arms, and 2 feet. Okay? We're going to poke him right in the stomach. We're just going to get him right there. Now, the head part, we're going to take this, we're going to come up, and we are going to wrap it nice and tight all around our base. You want your base to be the same color as your rose petals, for just in case you don't wrap it tight enough, you don't want to be able to see the middle. So if I had this orange and I had my white petals, you might be able to see the orange coming through there, and that's something you don't want. This petal here can be wrapped as tight as you want it to be, just because you don't want to see the inside of your cone. Then this is where the legs and the arms come in. We want to go the opposite sides. We don't want it to look like it's just in a spiral. We're going to take the leg, and either leg is fine. And we're just going to, we don't want to go down all the way. We just want to paint down towards the middle halfway. Then we're going to take this and we're going to wrap it around like this. Then we're going to take this side. Now, so this is the opposite. That was the head, the leg, the arm. We're going to go on opposite sides so that they go ahead and they kind of cover each. And then we can come back in a little bit and we'll go ahead and fix those. Now, either side here will be okay. So we'll take this arm and we went about halfway down. We come up. See, it's already starting to look like a rose. And then we're going to take this side and come up. So now if you wanted just little roses, this here would be your small rose. So if you're doing 50 roses and you need 25 small, go ahead and do all your 50 because they're all going to have to start out small before they get large anyway. Then we'll just go ahead and let them sit in here, and you can let those dry. When you get ready to apply the next layer, we're going to go ahead and poke it through, and you still have the same heads and things. The thing is though, you want to make sure you don't line it up where there's already a petal line. So you kind of want to stagger it. So this petal is going to go over that petal line right there. We're going to start with the head again. We're going to go about halfway up our flower. We're going to go ahead and put in our petal. Then we're going to start at a leg. Either leg is fine. You just want to be opposites. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to cover that seam. Cover that seam. Look at our flower. Oh, it's beautiful. Then we're going to do this side. We're just going over those seams. And then this seam right here. And then we're going to do this seam. And you might want to hang it upside down just a little bit to make sure that you only want to glue in the bottom part. You don't want to glue your petals because you want them to start opening. And if you want a little bit more closed flower, then you can go ahead and tighten it up some, but I wouldn't tighten it up all the way unless you're looking for a bloom that hasn't opened yet. Now this here would be about the size of your medium. So you'd go back through, take out the little ones you want, and then make them all your medium. So we already have 10 petals on this flower. Okay, gonna go ahead and stick them back in there. Then our last row, go ahead and put this in here. And again, we want to stagger it. And we're going to start the same way. We're going to start with the head. And we're going to just overlap right here. And we have a foot right here. Then we have an arm. Now I'm starting to do this a little bit more upside down because my petals are so soft right now, and this is where you want them to start to dry. And then, oh, here we are. And then the very last guy right here. And then we're just going to tip it upside down. And at the end of our segment, when we go in and finish our calla lily, we'll go ahead and finish our rose too, and I'll show you some embellishments on those. And then this is your large size rose. Now, if you want it to dry where it looks like it's open, I would just take it and just let it air dry just this way. If you want it to dry a little bit more closed, what works really well are little bonbon papers, like for the mini cupcakes. You can stick it right through the paper, and the paper will hold your petal up for you so that it'll dry a little bit more closed. I hope you enjoyed this segment of our roses. It's so simple, so easy to do, and you can do so many things with the roses. This was a very simple way to make the roses. If you have any questions, please contact me at donna@doublervideo.com at the address below. I hope you stay tuned for our very next journey. That's going to be our carnations, and then we're going to take everything and put it all together. Hope to see you soon. Thank you.